I spent days researching the internet to find 3 of the best horror stories about MrBeast, and it's up to you to judge whether they are true or not. The last story was sent to me by one of my followers, and that story shocked me. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Let's begin! I don't even know where to begin. Last year, my best friend Mike and I stumbled into something dark, something I can't shake off, no matter how hard I try. It was a normal weekend for us, hanging out and wasting time on Reddit. We came across a conspiracy thread about MrBeast, the famous YouTuber known for giving away money and doing crazy stunts. The post claimed that his real income wasn't from YouTube, but from the dark web, where he allegedly ran secret underground operations that involved illegal activities like torture and human trafficking. Mike, being the conspiracy nut he was, got sucked in. He insisted we dig deeper, and after a few drinks, I reluctantly agreed. We set up Tor and VPNs and started exploring. Most of what we found was harmless, boring actually. But then Mike found a site that matched what the conspiracy post mentioned. It had the ominous title, "Enter the Game for the Truth." We clicked on it. What started as curiosity quickly turned into something horrifying. The site had a countdown for a live stream, and when it hit 0, the screen flickered and showed a grainy video feed. In the center of a dimly lit room was a person tied to a chair, their face blurred. The chat exploded, with anonymous users making sick comments and placing bets on what would happen next. I was frozen with fear, but Mike was glued to the screen, not even blinking. Then, masked men entered the room, and what followed was something I wish I could forget. The person on the chair screamed as they were tortured, real torture. This wasn't some twisted show, it was real. And we were watching it unfold. When the video ended, I wanted to shut everything down, but another video started. This time, the person tied to the chair wasn't blurred. I recognized them. It was one of the recent winners from a MrBeast challenge. Mike lost it. He was convinced we'd uncovered the truth about MrBeast, that this was how he funded his massive giveaways. He started taking screenshots, recording everything, saying we'd expose it all. But then, strange things started happening. Someone in the chat posted, "We see you." Our computer screen flickered, and the camera light turned on by itself. Mike freaked out and shut everything down, but I knew it was too late. Whoever ran that site knew we were watching. From that night on, things got worse. Mike started receiving strange messages from unknown numbers. He claimed he was being followed and watched. I thought it was paranoia at first, but then he stopped answering my calls. When I went to check on him, his apartment was trashed, his laptop destroyed. A week later, Mike was found dead. Apparently, a suicide. I didn't believe it for a second. Mike was scared, yes, but he wouldn't have ended his life. He was determined to expose what we had found. I tried to take his recordings and screenshots to the police, but they kept disappearing. My emails wouldn't send, the files kept getting corrupted, and everything we had was wiped. It was like someone, or something, was erasing all evidence. Now I'm left here, with this weight on my chest. I can't share what happened with anyone because no one would believe me. But I know the truth. Mike died because we uncovered something we weren't supposed to see. And now, I'm terrified that I'll be next. I never imagined I would find myself in such a terrifying situation. But here I am, sharing a nightmare that still haunts me. It all started on a cold winter night when I was driving between cities. Due to heavy snowfall, the main road was closed, and I had no choice but to take a side road. Lost and disoriented, I stumbled upon an old, abandoned house at the end of the road. Against my better judgment, I decided to stop. As soon as I got out of the car, a scream pierced the air. It sounded like a woman in distress, coming from the basement of the house. At first, I thought it was the wind playing tricks, but the scream grew clearer and more desperate. My heart raced as I approached the house. The front door was ajar, creaking as I stepped inside. The house was cold and dark, filled with dust and forgotten furniture. Ignoring the fear creeping up my spine, I headed toward the basement. The screams continued, but by the time I reached the bottom of the stairs, they had faded into an eerie silence. Using my phone's flashlight, I scanned the basement's damp concrete walls. Then I heard it again. A faint voice calling for help from behind a heavy wooden door at the end of a hallway. I rushed to the door, but it was locked. Desperate, I kicked it repeatedly, trying to break it down. Just then, I heard a car engine outside. Looking through a small window, I saw a dark car speeding away and managed to take a picture of the license plate. I shouted for whoever was behind the door, but there was no response. I tried calling for help, but my phone had no signal. Feeling trapped and anxious, I focused on the license plate I had captured. After some research, I was shocked to find out it belonged to MrBeast, the famous YouTuber known for his wild challenges and philanthropic efforts. At first, I couldn't believe he was involved in something so sinister, but rumors of young girls disappearing after being invited to special challenges began to surface, sending chills down my spine. Determined to uncover the truth, I tracked MrBeast's movements and eventually discovered a remote safe house. On a night when I knew he wouldn't be there, I broke in. The atmosphere was chilling, and as I explored the rooms, I found refrigerators filled with human corpses in various stages of decay. Horrified, I knew I had to find the woman I had heard earlier. Following the voice, I found her tied up behind a locked door. I freed her, but just as we were about to escape, I heard the front door open. MrBeast stood there, his smile cold and menacing. "You think anyone would believe you?" he sneered. "I'm a star, and you're just a nobody." We escaped through a back window and ran into the night. I reported everything to the police, but when they investigated, they found nothing. The safe house was empty, and no one believed me. Now, I live with the knowledge of what I witnessed, haunted by the possibility that others are still trapped, their screams unheard. My friend Mark has always been obsessed with internet celebrities, especially MrBeast, the YouTuber famous for his extravagant challenges and massive giveaways. One day, Mark approached me with a wild rumor. MrBeast supposedly owned a secret house deep in the woods where something sinister happened. I brushed it off as a joke, but Mark insisted he had proof. After much debate, we decided to investigate, thinking it would just be a fun road trip. We followed a convoluted route to a rundown house in the middle of nowhere. It didn't look like the kind of mansion a millionaire would own, but something about the place felt wrong. While we explored the outside, I heard what sounded like crying. Mark said it was probably just an animal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The front door was locked, but Mark spotted a basement window that looked easy to pry open. I was hesitant, but we agreed to return the next day with tools. We arrived at dusk the following day. Mark pried the boards off the window, and we slipped into the basement. Inside, we found signs of recent activity: food wrappers, medical supplies, and syringes scattered across a table. Then we heard the crying again, this time louder and more desperate. It was coming from behind a locked door at the back of the basement. Mark, always eager for answers, brought his dad's old lock-picking tools. We came back later that night, and after what felt like forever, he unlocked the door. Inside, we found a man chained to the wall, looking thin and terrified. He looked up at us with pleading eyes and, to our shock, said, "I'm Mr. Beast." I couldn't believe it. He looked nothing like the YouTuber we knew, but the man insisted he was Mr. Beast's twin brother. He claimed his brother had kept him locked up for years, torturing him for some sick pleasure. Though his story was hard to believe, his desperation was undeniable. Mark wanted to call the police, but the man begged us not to, saying his brother would kill him if he found out. Just as we were deciding what to do, we heard footsteps upstairs. Panic set in. Someone was home. We barely managed to slip out of the basement, adrenaline pumping as we sprinted into the woods. From the window, I swore I saw a shadow watching us. That night, Mark and I made a pact never to speak of what we saw. We didn't tell anyone, fearing no one would believe us. But now, weeks later, I'm haunted by the memory. I can't sleep, and I always feel like someone is watching me. And Mark? He's vanished without a trace. I'm terrified for him, and I can't help but wonder if the dark secrets in that house are worse than anything we ever imagined. Whether you believe these stories or not is up to you, but this story was sent to me by real people who did not want their names to be revealed. And if there was any mention of them in the story, I replaced them with other names. Send your stories. You can leave me a comment or send it in Telegram, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.